I'm going to demonstrate how to update the firmware to a beta version. For 2025 for B.E.S.T Robotics, there's a beta version, B1.1.6, B2, and VEX engineers state that it enhances motor controller 55 functionality. I didn't see any explanation of exactly what that is, but it should unlock more power than the older uh, firmware versions. So this is not in the official changelog. If you go and look on their VEX website to look at the changelog of different firmwares, because it's a beta release, I would assume that if this gets released to the public eventually, then you would see it in the changelog with an explanation of what was actually changed. And then this is optional. You can just do the standard firmware update that's forced onto the VEX V5 brain every time you use VEX code. It'll work perfectly fine without the update, but you'll expect to see better performance out of the motor controller 55s if you do go and install and force this beta version onto your robot brain. So it is not going to automatically put this beta version. You have to manually go and force it on there, but it's easy to do. I can show you real quick. So I'm going to manually follow these directions. This is on the VEX knowledge base library, kb.vex.com. And within the VEX Code V5 library, you can see installing V5 beta firmware. And then I'm going to open up the VEX Code software within my browser to demonstrate what these screenshots show. But it's pretty straightforward with the screenshots. We're going to go to Tools. We're going to choose Hardware. We're going to click Install Brain Beta Firmware. And if you decided you didn't want this on your robot later on, you could go in and reinstall the brain firmware, and it will automatically go to whatever the latest publicly released firmware is. And then you follow through the commands on the computer screen. It will tell you to restart your V5 brain. And then when you reconnect back to your brain, you should be able to verify that it's got this beta version 1.1.6.B2. And then they also have the instructions at the bottom of this page to show you how to revert back to the latest publicly released firmware version if you decide to go back and change it to what it was before. So currently my brain has the 1.1.5. I can verify that by going to VEX code. Currently I have a battery plugged in to my robot with a battery cable, or no, to my robot plugged into my V5 brain, and then also have my micro USB cable. These other devices that are plugged in aren't necessary to be able to update the firmware. They just happen to already be plugged in. But all you need is USB cable, the battery, power cable, and a battery, and then turn on your brain. And then within this, I'm gonna connect to my brain. It's already connected. Usually you need to click connect. And I can see that I have the VEX OS 1.1.5 firmware version. I'm going to go to Tools up at the top left, Hardware, Install Brain Beta Firmware. And then it'll keep you updated on its progress. At the end, it will tell you that it's finished and that you need to restart your brain. So that took about 30 or 45 seconds. Now it says to restart and reconnect Xcode. So I'm going to click and hold the power button, this red circle with an arrow, for 3 seconds. Click and hold for 3 seconds. That will shut it down. So now it's turned off. I'll give it 5 or 10 seconds, the general rule of thumb when resetting a device. And then a single click on the power button to turn it on. And then I'm going to reconnect to VEX Code to verify that I had the beta version installed, but I can also click on devices, click the little brain icon, and over here it'll tell you which VEX OS version you're running. And I do have the beta 2 version. Also can go back to VEX Code and then reconnect to my brain because I turned off the brain and turned it back on. It lost connection to the computer. Always click the top VEX Robotics communication port. And then after it's connected and the brain icon turns green up on the top right, it shows that I'm running the VEX OS 1.1.6. It's interesting that it doesn't say the beta version there, but it did say beta 2 on my brain with on the screen. So just to recap, all I did was connect my brain, go up to tools, hardware, install brain beta firmware. And then if I wanted to revert and go back to the latest firmware that's publicly released, I would reinstall brain firmware and then go through the same steps. And the website is codev5.vex.com.